What's up? Welcome to another Uncomfortable Opinion. If you like the content, please follow me on YouTube and Instagram at The Uncomfortable Opinion. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll have some fun conversations if you comment. But today I'm going to jump right on the topic of dinosaurs. Do they exist? Well, the funny thing, we start diving into this topic, that you got to understand where the word dinosaur comes from. That is invented in the 1800s. And it comes from two Latin words, dino and saurus, and dino means, I'm pretty sure it means wondrous, great, or terrible, or big. So it's a whole bunch of words that describe something big, and saurus means lizard. And this was put forth before they had found the quote-unquote dinosaur bones, which kind of leads a sneaky suspicion, like, why are we calling it dinosaurs when we have these reports of these other creatures called dragons? Are they one and the same? Largely, I think they are. So you essentially just have giant lizards is what it boils down to. Are there still giant lizards today? There's some you can visit in zoos, like at a Gatorland. There is a 25-foot long saltwater crocodile. If that doesn't classify as a giant lizard, I don't know what does. That thing is, in my opinion, it's very awing to be beside a reptile that big that could just eat you, you know. But there are snakes big enough to eat people too, like the reports of the anacondas in the Amazon. But that's not what I'm getting into. What I'm getting into are the quote-unquote giant lizard/dinosaurs that we see in museums. Are those fossils real? No. You can look in the museums, talk to the people in the museums, and they're going to tell you every one of those fossils are replicas, because the real fossils are too delicate to be out in a artificially lit area around people. You know, that's funny too. And then there's claims that they've got radiation, and it's kind of like throwing a smoke screen on the situation. And the dinosaurs are used to promote evolution in millions of years. So there's all this kind of like the nutshell of all the cases of why dinosaurs don't exist. And then there's also the fossil fuels. People can argue like, well, fossil fuels prove dinosaurs. No, it cannot, especially when fossil fuels can be made in a lab with algae in about 30 minutes. It's not a resource that can really run out, because it can replenish itself and we can make it. That's something to research as well. If you don't believe me, that's fine. And I expect you not to believe the things I say, just to go and research them. And so now, why I believe dinosaurs/giant lizards, dragons exist. First off, there's a whole topic of study called cryptozoology. Cryptozoology talks and covers all sorts of creatures that mainstream science or scientism doesn't want to acknowledge, because of the uncomfortableness that these creatures pose, and that it doesn't fit into their predisposed narrative of evolution. You know, one of the most famous ones are Nessie and Bigfoot. And there's several others too, and I'm going to jump into some of them to let us know not only the possibility, but the probability of these giant lizards still existing. One of the ones that comes to mind is Mogimbli and Bimbli. It's in a region in Africa, in a swamp that is about the size of South Carolina. It's 80% unexplored, yet there's natives who live there and say they've seen this creature. Mogimbli and Bimbli is essentially a long-necked dinosaur, and it's described from being 30 feet long from the top of its head to the tip of its tail, and its name means one who blocks the river. Not so much as they not only have seen this creature, but they know its behaviors, what it likes to eat, that it's going to be in parts of the river that no hippopotamuses or alligators are going to be in, because it's extremely territorial. And they even have methods of capturing these things to kill and eat them. So that's a whole topic to look into. And then there's also in Kenya, there are little like petrosaur creatures described that will come and eat the dead if the dead aren't buried deep enough. And then that kind of leads to a question, well, could dragons be fire breathing or something like that, like they're depicted in legends? Actually, yes, from if you look at it from a scientific, logical standpoint, they very well could have. A couple examples that kind of build up to this is the spitting cobra. The spitting cobra has two fangs with holes in the front of the fangs instead of just in the bottoms, and it can flex its poison glands to shoot poison out about 15 feet accurately to blind any sort of attacker so it can get away. And just to think about the muscle control in that, so that way they can literally push it out 15 feet as a projectile. Another creature is an insect that's found all over the world called the bombardier beetle. The bombardier beetle is extremely interesting because it has a turret on the bottom of it, which it can swivel, it's 180 degrees, either frontwards or backwards, directed at an enemy and shoot out a boiling hot liquid to stun, kill, or just to distract an attacker. Now, what's very interesting about this, you know things can't keep boiling hot materials inside of it, but upon further study of this small creature, is that it has two glands that hold two different chemicals, and when the chemicals mix together in a mixing chamber that's inside of this creature, then it causes the chemical reaction which makes this boiling hot liquid that this little creature can shoot at any attacker or any threat that it may deem a threat. And that's just kind of sum it up. But if you've seen the movie Reign of Fire with the about the dragons and I guess generically famous people in it, right? The most interesting thing about Reign of Fire is they kind of touch on a couple of these modern day creatures, but putting their aspects inside this dragon, meaning you've got the flexible poison glands from a snake, and then you have alternate chemicals in each one, like in the bombardier beetle, but then when these alternate chemicals meet together, it causes a chemical reaction which creates fire. And that is absolutely how you could get a fire-breathing dragon. These things have been, dragons have been documented all throughout history. And the interesting thing is, if you start reading stuff about Marco Polo's diary, he mentions that the Chinese emperor of the time had his chariot pulled by dragons. Looking more into the Chinese history, at a point in time they had a position in their official documents of a dragon feeder. So what exactly these dragons were, we might not ever know, but the fact is there's some sort of large lizard that was being used and that was a hindrance. Something else you can ask, like, well, where did all the dragons go? Human nature killed them, meaning that if you have any large predatory animal in the region, humans usually band together and kill them. It's pretty common to think that if there's some big crazy animal plaguing somewhere, the humans would band together, especially in America, pull out all the guns and hunt this thing and shoot it until there was no threat left and somebody would want to mount it. And just that mentality has been with us for such a long time, and that would explain why there's so many stories of people fighting dragons for honor, glory, and think about it. If you were back in the day and you had a chance to kill a dragon, would you go after it? Your name would live forever. There was, in Norse, they have guys like Sigurd who killed the last dragon and became famous in their mythology or legends, however you want to state it. But you still can learn about him because of his feat. St. George killed a dragon. He's on coins and he's patron saint of the military now. So there's lots of things that tie into dragons, and just to discount that the existence of them because there is an agenda for evolution in millions of years, don't let that dishearten you, because there's still more information there and it's all getting muddled to push agendas. So keep looking into it. Am I right? Am I wrong? It's really up to you. It's an opinion, and this is my opinion. I hope you form your own opinion and just keep digging and becoming better than what you were the next day. And thank you for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is The Uncomfortable Opinion.